It's Brooklyn, bitch! The Prince is a show at the Southern, not Lauren. I have a diss track about you in my files. The Prince is a show currently on at the Southwark Playhouse, written by and co-starring Abigail Thorn of Philosophy Tube fame, whomst I stand severely. Have you seen the end credit scene of my Kung-Fu Panda video? Please notice me, senpai. Jokes aside, I will do my best to keep the fangirlisms to a minimum and they won't interfere with my critique of The Prince, so without further ado, on with the review. The Prince is set in a veritable multiverse of the complete works of Shakespeare, wherein two main characters discover that they are in fact characters in a play, and they are trying to escape the Matrix and live happily ever after. Shenanigans ensue. That's the non-spoilery version of it. What if the Matrix, but set in Shakespeare times, and Morpheus was also the Doctor, and Neo wouldn't stop trying to make her ships canon? Also, our Neo allegory is literally trans, as opposed to metaphorically trans. Throughout the story, Sam and Jen... Is that a reference to Sean and Jen? Sam and Jen are Morpheus and Neo stand-ins respectfully. Also meet various characters from Henry IV, including the big man himself, as well as Lady Kate. In terms of what the show's about, besides the various farcical plot shenanigans and the jokey jokes and all that good stuff, in a strange way, it's kind of about fan fiction, and specifically the ethics of changing and adding and fiddling about with canons. So that's a really nice thing. Main reason for that being Sam is clearly very loyal to the original text and wants to follow it the way that it was made and the way that it was written by the big man bard person himself. And also, in the actual plot, Sam's goal is following one of the canonical stories to its logical tragic conclusion, so that she and Jen will be able to escape the Shakespeare realm. Meanwhile, Jen is more so a stand-in for us, the average audience, but also someone who just doesn't stereotypically get Shakespeare. You know, like Paul Joseph Watson, let's say. Okay, I take that back, she's not like Paul Joseph Watson. That would be a huge insult to the actress, and the character, and her entire family lineage. And Jen starts talking to the other characters from Shakespeare, they start getting along, and all in all, Jen just wants everyone to live a happily ever after. You know, because she's never heard of Romeo and Juliet, I suppose. To borrow a phrase from overly sarcastic productions, it's very much in-on-the-joke loving satire, let's say. I consider myself an empath, that's my personal superpower. With that said, I do not claim to talk for every, you know, octogenarian English teacher who knows way more about Shakespeare's works than me. I myself am more a fan of adaptations of Shakespeare's work than stuff by the old Billy Shick-Shack's OG himself made, just because it's really nice to put interesting and new spins on an old story. You need to watch Ashnagar before I come to your house. West Side Story, looking at racism and gang culture. Ran, in which Samurai King Lear is a paranoid warlord with crippling depression. And The Lion King?
But maybe it's just a kid's film because it doesn't deal with any mature themes, said nobody ever. The Lion King is the greatest anthropomorphic assault upon the theme of mortality that Western culture has ever produced.
Also, I'm sorry, they should have shown us the Titus Andronicus dimension sooner. But overall, I imagine that it would at least interest, you know, the purists. Your mileage of enjoyment may vary depending how you feel about the moments of contrasting the flowery, eloquent soliloquies of the bard with vulgar language and normal coarse speak. But I'd say that they largely get away with it here because it's at least spread out far enough that it doesn't turn into the Shakespearean equivalent of the one joke. If you know, you know. If I may use a little bit of visual metaphor, the way the stage was set up was essentially, it was all one colour tile on the outside and all another colour tile showing the single directions of individual chess pieces. There were 2 chess pieces, one of them was, I believe, a king, and the other one was the prince. Not the prince, the knight. You know, for example, imagine all of the tiles here are black, except the one where the chair is, and it's in a white outlined tile direction of the direction of the knight. So like white, 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 white. Hopefully 4chan don't take that a bit out of context. I imagine there's some A-level philosophy you could read there about the power of different characters and at different times depending on how the actors are placed, the fact that characters pre-awakening were following a single rigid path, all that good stuff essentially. Overall, I had a very good time with The Prince. It's basically a comedy with serious dramatic sections in it, I would say. However, that is a great thing if you're into that. There were multiple times when the crowd just went absolutely buck wild, especially at one particular joke about pronouns, which I'm extremely tempted to share. The sound design and lighting were really good, costumes were stylish and striking, and largely, at least to my limited knowledge on such things, accurate to the time period. I highly recommend The Prince if you want to have a gay old time, literally, and also on stage. I haven't gotten too deep into the philosophicals just because I think that could warrant its own video. And I will talk to you guys in the next video. Take care all.